Oilerslive podcast. Oilerslive podcast. Oilerslive podcast.
Now, get ready to talk hockey. Streaming from the Oilers Live Studio. Subscribe or follow today.
Hey, it's Michael here with another edition of Oilers Live Tuesday. Big edition, as we've got a newcomer, new guest to the show, Mr. Neil Garrity. And I see our numbers have almost doubled, so I'm thinking we've got some family members watching right now. How you doing tonight, Neil?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing all right. I'm doing all right. Man, it's back-to-back Oilers wins. We haven't, feels like we don't talk about that enough, so.
Yeah.
Happy
Is that
with
the
that.
first time this year?
Yeah, well, I think, I should have come prepared with that. I don't know. Is it the first? It's not the first
No.
time. We've had it maybe once before. Did we won three in a row at one point?
Yeah. I wasn't prepared for that either.
Yeah. Anyway, you know what? I mean, it's
We're gonna go 3 in a row now.
yeah.
Follow that.
Yeah, let's. I mean, I'm not banking anything on this team. It depends on who shows up, and certainly, I always wonder, and maybe a good way to start the show. Your thoughts on this? I mean, we've had two games where we've had the classic Oilers starts, which is allow the first goal, and play the game from behind. Two games where we waited till the third period to tie the game up, and then one that went into overtime. I mean, you got to be elated that you're pulling out wins, but that just can't be, that's got to be aggravating from a coaching perspective. You got to think. I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, as a fan, like, is that something you're happy with, or are you, I mean, you're happy for the win, but like, what part of do you have any misgivings about this?
Well, I think I try to be a positive fan, which is not easy, being a lifetime Oilers fan. So, I also live in Calgary, so that makes it even more difficult
Yeah.
to be an Oilers fan. But ultimately, we have a team that, like, of course you want it. Like, everyone in the organization wants to score the first goal. But I don't know how you coach that with these guys. I mean, I did think even before Woodcroft went with Connor and Leon together that maybe that's a good way to go. Like, have them start every game. But like, that's happened and they still haven't scored first. But I think, back to me being, trying to be positive. Yeah, someone's going to score the first goal. It doesn't matter. The last goal is what matters. Like that. It of course you want to score the first goal, but there's another team that's trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, that 100%. I mean, you said something that I think is important to note, which is last goal matters. Yeah, but it's got to be, I mean, there's got to be something to it. I mean, you can't it's just too consistent, right? Like, this is an Oilers thing. Like, it is a mental block, right? Like, they come out on, and you're right. Maybe the trick was Draisaitl and McDavid, and we're going to get to that because, obviously with the injuries the Oilers have and the way things are going, and then today, I don't know if you've heard, but Klim Kostin will be staying behind for a game while he works
He's
out
in
some
Calgary.
visa issues. So the Oilers have had, we've had our share of depth challenges, if you will, and a whole bunch of other things. And then we're putting in McDavid and Draisaitl together. But still, back to this first goal thing. I mean, is this just the odds, right? Like, is this you're on a run at the at the table and you're just doing well? Like, in this case, a bad run, but a run nonetheless, or is this something to do with the team?
I think it doesn't get talked about enough about the schedule we've had to start too. Like we have faced the best teams in the league
Yeah,
every night to start. And yeah, our record isn't as good as it was last year because we didn't have to face these guys last year. Um, I do think the back half of our season is going to look a whole lot different than the front half. And I was thinking today too, like not only are the teams that we face really good, but we've been goalied a few nights, and we almost got goalied last night too. And
Spencer Knight was on fire to start that
he
game. I
was
didn't know.
on fire.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Yeah, and Sorokin, I mean,
Well,
50
yeah,
saves. Come
like
on, right?
look at the goalies we've faced.
Yeah,
We have faced all the best goalies in the league
yeah,
so far.
yeah, and
Yeah,
Markstrom. all the best goalies, and then
yeah, but we won.
Uh,
No, I'm looking forward to a few like Anaheim, San Jose, Chicago, Arizona. Like let's have some of look at if you look at Vegas's schedule, like there's a reason why they have so many points right now.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah.
We played them once and we beat them.
Here's the thing: is the Oilers, no matter what year, will always have a bad schedule, and part of that has to do with geography, right? Like so much of it has to do with geography. The way they're trying to optimize where teams play and how they play, and
Are they?
well, yeah.
This
Yeah.
trip.
I mean, they're not optimizing, and they're not optimizing rivalries. We know that.
But look at this trip. Like we come back for what one game, then we gotta go back east again. Like
Yeah, Minnesota, and then yeah,
we're
yeah.
just
I mean, yeah, it is. It is. I know they're trying to optimize. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. The amount of teams, the amount of concerts, everything they got to work around, but they're doing what they can.
yeah.
Obviously, they've made some mistakes. I think the 3-game Calgary Edmonton is a mistake, but the geography will always play against Edmonton.
I don't think the schedule should necessarily change. I'm just saying we faced some really good teams
Yeah.
so far. All the teams we faced are probably playoff teams.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about that too. I mean, how much of that factors into the type of injuries the Oilers have, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
Calgary had an unbelievable year last year, which, some of what they're experiencing this year has to do with new players, and some of it has to, do with a number of different things. But like they had no injuries. I mean, if the Oilers could get through a season without any injuries, I don't remember the year, but it was in the 90s. The Canadians had a couple of back-to-back years where they were, they never played with a full team. And they
Yeah.
just cleaned house in the training department.
Well, last year is a good example for us. I mean, we were in the upper echelon of most man games missed, and
Year
Calgary
after year. It's not just last year. Like, it's year
we had
after
like
year.
none.
Yeah.
Well, I know. I remember the days where all the fans were saying we should get new training staff and stuff.
I mean, does it matter, or is it, is it a case of, like I said, maybe just tougher schedule, lots of travel, northern climate? I don't know. I mean, could be any number of things, right? I mean, if you're obviously, you're nice and warmed up if you're in Florida all the time, or you're in New York, you might not be warm for the whole year, but shit, you could pretty much walk to the next arena, right? I
Who
mean,
cares? You're in New York.
yeah, like, I mean, these guys are, they don't have to fly when they're on a
Yeah.
road trip. If I
Yeah.
could go home at nights, the Western schedule has always been the worst, but I do think Edmonton's got it the worst. I mean, but woe is me, this team's got to find a way to get some wins.
Yeah,
Right.
the one thing that's really interesting about this year too, and it's good and bad. I do wish that we were playing teams in our division more, like Calgary, because I think we would have more wins. Um,
Yeah, I love your
um,
thinking on that. Yeah.
but what it will do is like I don't think last year when there's all the Twitter talk of oh yeah, you're great in the Pacific Division. Who cares? You're going to get dummied as soon as you get out of the Pacific Division.
Yeah.
And this year's completely different. Like this year is like you kind of know where you stand compared to the whole league this year.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, it's wow. I mean, you could go on about the schedule, I guess.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, right? Like this team is good enough to win games. We've got a couple people commenting on YouTube. Renegade Man, you know, specifically the first goal, hates it when Nurse takes the knee like that. I mean
Yeah.
that's a classic Nurse move. I mean, in that case, it's it's just a bad bounce.
Yeah, I
Some
really like
stranger
him.
says
Yeah,
consistency is the
overtime.
problem. Barry and Kulak need less minutes. When does Dursa's on watching on Facebook says when does Seattle go into a free fall? There's look every year there's surprise teams. This year it feels like there's quite a few more. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but Seattle obviously
New Jersey,
is a surprise. New Jersey is a surprise, right? They did
Buffalo.
Buffalo, yeah, Buffalo. Buffalo, I always have trouble making fun of Buffalo because it just reminds me so much of what we went through year
Oh,
after year, and to some extent continue to go through. I mean, I hate the term when people use it, Oilers, Oilering, but to some extent, I mean, when people say that, what they're talking about. That feeling of it's almost like they're trying to lose, trying to find the bad bounce, trying to find whatever. And Buffalo just, I never make fun of them because we've been there. We were there for over a decade. We call it the decade of darkness, but we all know it was longer than that. We had one one good year in between there that
it was a
maybe
good.
saved us. But hey, yeah,
It's one of the things when I say that I'm trying to be a positive fan, that's one of the things that I try to just shut out. Like that, I don't want to hear Decade of Darkness anymore. I don't want to hear Old Boys Club. Like people getting mad that Paul Coffey is like talking to Evan Bouchard. Like how ridiculous is that? Why wouldn't he?
yeah, fair statement, right? I
What a
mean,
great guy to talk to him.
Coffey's been in the game. He understands the game. Like, there's no, it's not like he's out there coaching Evan Bouchard. And hey, you got a guy like Bouchard who's an offensive-minded defenseman. I mean, who better to talk about how that was when, in the game, and somebody that's lived it
Like what's
maybe
wrong with
better
having
than
a
anybody.
mentor?
Pardon me?
What's wrong with having a mentor?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
No, I 100% agree.
and also like name another team in the league that does not have an ex-player working for them.
Yeah, yeah,
They all do.
Yep, yeah.
Yes, they do.
I mean,
We just happen to
everybody
have like Stanley Cup winners.
talks about how great Eiserman is, right? And he
Yeah.
is. But yeah, he played for the team. He's the Detroit Old Boys Club, right? Yeah, I mean, you don't use terms like that if you're winning, though, right?
No.
And so that, I get it. I'm not, I don't love the terms. I'm with you. I don't love them. I don't
Yeah.
love Oilering, that type of commentary. But, say all
You know,
that and you just
he doesn't understand that
if you
though.
win that, though. If you're winning, you don't say that stuff, right?
The people that don't understand that though are the team. Like Connor McDavid doesn't know what the Decade of Darkness is.
Thankfully for that.
Was he even born?
Thankfully.
Like it's in the past, and it just needs to stay there.
I don't disagree. I mean, it'll be nice though if the Oilers can put together a couple of years where they're a contender, right? Where they're doing what you expect them to do. And I'd say this year at 12-10, right? They're not meeting expectation.
No, I guess another thing back, maybe it's not, it is sort of schedule related. And back to that goalie conversation, we don't face a lot of backup goalies
No.
anymore. Like we're facing the best, and that's a good sign. And we still have I mean, we're still in a playoff. We're in a wild card position right now.
Yeah, we're in a wild card spot. We're doing all right. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's throw the team away sort of
No,
time, and certainly. So, what's your? I mean, you're a positive guy on this. What's your view in this instance then, in terms of Ken Holland? I mean, as a positive fan, you're looking at this team, you're seeing guys go out on, and not just like one day, maintenance days. We're talking IR, right? Guys not going on trips. McLeod's out. We don't know why. Yamamoto, Fogel's the only guy that's day to day, right?
looks like Yamamoto might be back soon.
Yeah, Yamamoto's going to be back soon. But
Yeah.
I mean, you got a Vander Kane who you were counting on to,
Yeah.
put some pucks in the back of the net and was putting together a pretty solid season. That one's a freak accident, so you can't blame training staff
Yeah.
for that by any stretch.
And you also
Where are you
can't
at
have,
with this? Do you think like Ken Holland needs to do something and fast,
I don't
or is
I don't
patience the
think he
key?
I don't think he can.
Yeah.
Like you can't replace Evander Kane.
Nope.
Like it's impossible. Um, you know, I think and people don't like this, but when Ken Holland first came in, he was absolutely handcuffed. Like that Koskinen contract destroyed us for a long time.
Yeah.
Like that hurt. It was painful. And as soon as that like comes up, then now we can do some things. The Keith one, I, I do I wish they would have retained some salary? Sure. I think he thought they were getting that, the money back at the end, which the league kind of decided to change the rules again on us.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I think he had the best intentions in mind there, and he kind of got screwed.
Yep.
I will say this, like Ken Holland is known for being patient and letting people over ripen. And he's probably the reason why Puljujärvi is still on this team. And we are developing some people in the minors that can come up and fill in places, and that's how you get through these times. Like again, you're never going to replace Evander Kane, but the guys that are there can fill in. I mean, we've done pretty well. Like Nuge is having the year of his life.
Yeah.
Hyman's having the year of his life. Like we're doing all right.
Yeah, I mean, so having said that, and I know if you listen to Straight Off the Pipe the other night, Eric and Mike went through and did some grades in terms of the team. Is there anybody on the team that you're looking at and you're wishing it was having a better season? And when we think about that, I mean, you talk about Nuge. How do you feel about the season Nuge is putting together so far? Like, do you think, like, I mean, this is kind of the season we've been asking for from a points production standpoint, yet it hasn't changed our fortunes any. So, what does that mean, right?
Well, I think Nuge is invaluable. Like, there's no other player that you can take and move into the positions that they move him into.
Yeah.
So he's left wing with Connor, now he's left wing with Draisaitl, now he's center. He's all over the place.
Yeah.
He's key to our power play. He's a key to our penalty kill. You can't. Well, you remember last year when he got hurt?
Yep.
That was horrible. I think if he got hurt, it would be compared to Kane. Like I think you could make a case that he's more valuable than Kane
Oh yeah. Well, that's I mean that's
overall.
those are strong words, right?
They are.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I mean, look at what happened to our power play last year when Nuge was out, and our penalty kill. He just dove.
yeah.
It was horrible. And, and Kane doesn't do that. Kane doesn't play those roles. So I'm overall, I think. I mean, how can you not be happy with Nuge's season? He's point per game. You can't ask much more than that.
Yeah, I mean
There's other players that I think we could be talking about instead of Nuge.
there's some though argument out there, right? And I'm not saying I agree with it, but Nuge has spent the majority of his time in the top 6 this year, right? He's a talented player, a
Someone
point
has
per
to.
game, right? Might be expected with those playing with Draisaitl or Connor McDavid, right? I mean,
Unless you're
unless
like
you're Puljujärvi.
Puljujärvi
Yeah,
or Yamamoto.
yeah. But I mean, he's got the talent to do it. We know that. He does bring other facets to the game, right? And
I think
it's just look. There's got to be something on YouTube. I'm looking at the chat here. Some stranger still love the moniker. Says defensively we could do better. Now there's got to be something though, guys, and this goes out to those on whether you're watching on YouTube, on Twitter, wherever you're watching, right? Like how much of the responsibility defensively too is on the offense, on the forwards, right? On the team defensive game.
you know what.
And,
That's actually a point where Nuge could probably be better.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've expected him to be sort of the 200-foot player year over year over year. Has that changed? Has that changed because of his utilization? Has it changed, whichever? I look at Robertson, who, by the way, I was listening to some NHL radio today. I absolutely, I'm going off topic here, but every year somebody has, a hot streak, and all of a sudden they are better than Connor McDavid.
Yeah, they're the best player to ever play,
Yeah, and
even though they have less points.
yeah. So yeah, I mean it's sorry, just adjusting. Thanks to Kelly for giving me a cue on the microphone volume. Yeah, I mean, so Jason Robertson, though, in this case, he's got he's neck and neck with McDavid, even strength points. So he's got a few more, right? But his plus minus is plus 13, no matter how much you care about plus minus. But guys are like, this team, right, is not. I don't know, who's the best 200-foot forward on our team.
That's a really good question. I think Connor should be. I think he has he could absolutely be Pavel Datsyuk if he wanted to be.
Yeah, Datsyuk. Yeah.
The way he can steal pucks, and like if he used his speed coming back to our end the same way as he uses it going to their end, there's no one that could beat him to our net. But that's not realistic either. I think his game has improved. I think the announcers like to talk about Leon and his two-way game a lot. I think Nuge is kind of expected to be that. I'm not sure if he's there. I think that's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe there's not a good answer. I mean, right now the team is so poor defensively, right? Yeah. Like that. I said this. I think it was last show. If you look at the league, and this is year over year, it's almost without fail that the top half of the league, right at number 16, has a positive goal differential. And the bottom half of the league has a negative goal differential. And this year is no different. There are a couple of exceptions always, as there will be, 9 out of 10 times, give or take 5%, right? Los Angeles is at a -4 differential, and I think they're destined to take a bit of a dive.
Totally.
Edmonton, though, on the other hand, is right now in the top 16 with the -4 differential, the same as LA. And potentially the same. One of the challenges is not just defense; it's goaltending, right? Skinner's just not been good enough. But then you look at the rest of everybody else in that, like Boston. It's tough to compare against Boston right now. They're at a +40 goal differential. +40 through 22 games.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's absolutely ridiculous. New Jersey right behind them at +36. Vegas +20. Now, Vegas has had, as you mentioned, maybe a bit of an easier schedule to
Yeah, I
start.
don't look at Boston's schedule at all, but I'm assuming they're playing teams out east, which, good teams out there.
Yeah. I mean, Boston is, I don't know, they're on a tear. They seem to be a team of destiny right now. Like,
Yeah.
they beat the Lightning 3-1 tonight.
They're hard not to like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't like them, but but I know what you're saying.
I don't know. I've seen some interviews with what's his name? Their
Marchand?
captain. Not much.
Oh, jeez. No, I've gone a blank too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, Bergeron.
Bergeron, and he's so well spoken. He seems like such an amazing leader, and it's hard not to like that guy. And talk about one of the league's best two-way players.
Yeah.
If not the best.
Yeah, I mean they've certainly, there's not a player in their lineup, right, that you got a bad thing to say about.
No.
Right, like they're just up and down, right to the the bottom four, the fourth line forwards, right? Like they're just they're awesome. All of them play good 200-foot game. They play a complete game. They've got great defense. Obviously McAvoy is outstanding, right, on D. We don't in Edmonton. Here's the thing: is every year there seems to be a team like that. Last year was Colorado.
Yeah.
This year it's Boston. Oilers fans obviously want the Oilers to take home a cup, and we've had our dreams and wishes. We're not even in that ballpark yet, though.
No, I was gonna ask, like, do you think we're even better than we were last year?
No, not right now. I mean, there's clearly something missing from last year to now. Some people blame it on, and again, I'd love to hear what people have to say. Kelly brings up something that's kind of scary. Just think how good Boston will be with Patrick Kane going into the playoffs.
We'll get to see him tomorrow night. That'll be interesting.
Yeah. Kelly actually, I should have been reading the chat here. Hyman may be the best 200-foot player. That's a good possibility.
Yeah.
He's definitely Hyman. I mean, I would absolutely love Hyman's game. But let's get back to this. I mean, you bring up a good question. Like, are we better than last year? I'd say initially, it sure felt that way, right? I mean, we thought we upgraded on Campbell. I had no complaints about Holland's moves in the off season. Well, I mean, I've always got complaints. I don't know that I had big complaints. I actually had high expectations for the Oilers. I expected them. I said on the program many a time that it shouldn't be a stretch for the Oilers to come out as the division leaders, right? To be definitive buyers at the deadline. You can't necessarily foresee, an Evander Kane injury like that, or something like that. Like, typically a season, these destiny seasons happen because everything works out in the right direction, right? I think of Calgary season last year. Like, I just don't think that season happens for half those players if, anything changes, an injury somewhere or any type of adversity, which they didn't really, experience. And in terms of the Oilers, I mean, maybe this is get this adversity out of the way early. I mean, we've seen obviously Tampa Bay battle through adversity in previous seasons, only to have guys come back in time for playoffs and just absolutely demolish everybody. But this year, we didn't. I felt like we were better. I mean, you got Evander Kane long term. You've got a coach. You've got some consistency in coaching like that. I think as Oilers fans, most of us anyway. Although I've started to see some Woodcroft stuff. I mean, you could see anything on Twitter on any given day. I mean, I'm sure there's Oilers fans out there that would love to trade McDavid. Who knows? We put Jack Campbell in, who hasn't been an upgrade so far. Our defense, I think, I don't know. I mean, it was a question mark for me at the beginning of the season, but I thought they would perform better than they did. I thought Kulak would be more noticeable this year in a good way, and he's not really played to his expectation. Barry, who somebody, Renegade Man, said Barry and Kulak need less minutes. I think Barry's been great this year.
I think
Barry.
Barry has been like, and he took a step forward last year with the coaching change. His defense got way better last year.
Yeah, but overall, I mean, it's not saying much, because if you're relying on Tyson Barry's defense to win you games, then you're in trouble, right? I said this earlier a couple times. If Skinner plays more games than Jack Campbell this year, something's gone terribly wrong. And I would say right now, there have been some things that have gone terribly wrong. The defense haven't performed to expectation. Darnell Nurse and Cody Ceci haven't been as good a pairing this year as they were last year. Duncan Keith clearly did other things that maybe we didn't, all of us that lamented every time he got on the ice last year was doing, things maybe we didn't realize he was doing, or, stuff you don't see on the ice, right, necessarily. He calmed Bouchard down a fair bit.
I think Mike Smith was a difference too last year. Like, I know that everyone hated the guy, but man, like, he made incredible gaffes. But our goalies this year have done that too. Skinner did it a couple games ago.
Yeah.
And,
Shades of Mike Smith, 100%.
But what he brought, like that, like, our defense didn't even have to get to the hash marks. It covered a lot of weaknesses, I think, in our decor, is what it did.
Yeah.
They didn't have to come back and fight in the corners for pucks. They had to get to the hash marks, and Smith would feed him a pass, tape to tape.
Yeah.
And then we'd be out of our zone. Yes, I wish that he wasn't injured as much. And yes, I wish he was less Dominic Hasek in his craziness. Or his, what do they like to call it? His athleticism.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see less gymnastics from him. But at the end of the day, he outplayed Quick and he outplayed Markstrom when we needed him.
Yeah. I mean, and Smith has been, when the Oilers picked Smith up, I remember when Calgary lost in 4 to Colorado. Right, that year they were expected, to go all the way. Like Calgary, they would have called the mercy rule in that series if not for Mike Smith. He was the only guy that showed up out of the Flames in that playoff series, and that that wasn't that long ago, 3-4 years ago. Obviously, Smith is a little bit older. I mean, he was outstanding. He had some good seasons. Kelly says from Beer League Heroes, Saravalli seems convinced that the Oilers will upgrade the forward depth before the defense. And some stranger, and for those of you listening on other platforms, some stranger is the name that he goes by. He says Cody Ceci is struggling a bit this year. Let's tackle this Saravalli thing first. Thoughts, like, is this Ken Holland sort of conceding that this is the best we're going to do defensively if this is the case? Do you think you think there's a play? What what do you think might be going through if Saravalli's right and he's is maybe as connected as anybody in the league, if not the most connected? Friedman maybe the maybe the most, but if Saravalli says it, it's typically pretty true. Thoughts on that? I mean, if they're looking at forward depth first before defense, is that smart? What's your thoughts?
My thoughts are, I'm not sure left wing is our weakness. Like right now, we have Zach Hyman playing right wing.
Yeah,
that's playing great. We have I actually think he's playing better lately. He is. He's in there. He's doing a lot of things right. He's just not
at risk of going off topic, and we're going to stick on this forward depth thing.
Right.
But he had 2 or 3 shifts where he seemed to be skating differently the other night. Not in Florida, but against the Rangers.
Yeah.
And then, but he just. I mean, that's one hell of a big monkey he's got on his back, because he still didn't score.
Yeah.
But this was just I want to go back and look, because I legit watched him skate, and I had to look 2 or 3 times to see, like, just the lines he was taking, everything about his game. He was playing with a little bit of confidence for 2 or 3 shifts. He's playing with Draisaitl and McDavid, and then moments later he's bumped down again. But hey, look, they have to bump him down, because he's not finishing, right?
Well, you know what though, too, like, to your original point at the very start of this, they were chasing that game, and Hyman was buzzing, so they got to move Hyman up with Draisaitl and McDavid to try and get a goal, and that's what happened. And I don't think it should be an issue for Puljujarvi to go down and play with Nuge and Fogle or something. Like, that's not the end of the world. You're still getting good minutes. Like, I think sometimes people worry too much about lines, and the coach is there to get he's there to, if those guys are going, put them together and let's go.
Yeah.
He's trying to win a game. He's not concerned about one player's development that day.
Yeah. No, fair point, right? I mean, and nor should he be, right? No. And you know what? Hyman is always the safe bet, right? Like, you could, Hyman's one of the best signings we've had on this team in years, right?
Yes.
I mean, there's not a game where he doesn't come to play. I can't actually. I'm sure somebody on Twitter could tell me when he's had a bad game, but but I can't think of a time where I blame him for. There, like, most players have a game where you're wondering what the hell they're thinking, but most players not named Connor McDavid.
Wasn't it the Rangers game where he said that, like, the first 2 periods, like, he wasn't feeling it? Like, I haven't
missed that one, but
he said he was, like, missing the puck, and he dropped his stick a couple times, and and then he does what he does.
Yeah. So back to this forward depth thing, and I knew we'd get off track as soon as I got on the Puljujarvi piece. I mean, your thoughts? Like, is this, is that the right move for Holland? Should he be looking at forward depth? I mean, you were going down the path of, we've got a lot of left wingers. which we do. That part's obvious. Like I'm guessing just based on that initial commentary that you think maybe forward depth is the first place we need to look.
The one thing I did think about last night, actually, and I know Durst kind of talked about this the other night on Straight Off the Pipe about like adding like a Reeves. And Minnesota got him for a 5th round pick. Like that's pretty cheap. And so I don't know if that's a good idea or not. But I tell you, last night I really did not like Gudis running around. And I just wish we had, even if you have somebody there sitting on the bench, you're gonna have to answer to him.
Yeah.
And and we handled ourselves fine. And maybe this is just the old man in me, where I just don't I don't like getting pushed around.
Yeah.
Like, I don't there was a long stretch of Oilers teams that got pushed around. You talked about like injuries and stuff. We were talking about, we added guys like McIntyre and because of that.
Yeah.
And you think of that the Edler hit on Nuge, or sorry, on McDavid. Does that happen if Reeves is sitting there? I don't know. Like, are teams scared to play us?
Yeah, I mean, I
know if that's a big deal. But
I don't think Edler. I think the Edler hit was garbage hit.
Yeah.
But I don't think that was done with any type of intention, right? Like it was done as a it's just a I hesitate to call a player in the NHL a bad player, but it's just a guy that is getting beat and is doing everything, like doesn't have the wherewithal to say, I can't injure somebody. I'm just going to stop them with whatever piece of me that I have. Like I think it's just an idiot move. But I still don't think that his intention was to injure McDavid. And so I don't think, you could have whoever you want on the team. It's not going to change the fact that Edler is just an idiot when it comes to that kind of play.
Yeah, sure. You're not changing stupid, but maybe I should word this a different way. If we do add depth, I hope that it's somebody that brings more of a physical element to the game. So, like Devin Shore skating around out there. And I actually don't mind Devin Shore because he plays 5 minutes a night.
Yeah.
If that's your biggest concern, that he's not moving the needle. But when he's out there, I hate when he flies by a guy. Like, just finish your check.
Yeah.
Finish your check. And maybe the answer is they all need to finish their checks. I think McLeod could do it way more often than he does. Yes, he's starting to do it, and it's making a difference.
Yeah, well, Puljujärvi's if he's not leading the team in hits, he's pretty damn close. This is he started to use his body more last year. He's come along this year. He's using it more, and it's not he's not doing anything special, right? He's not the a Marchment out there making the big hits. He's just getting his body in the way, using it to his advantage. Sorry, I'm just the worst fear with Shore is him hurting your own goalie. Ask Mike Smith, says Kelly. I look at last night's game. Yeah, Gudis is running around. I think this team plays better in games like that, like when they get a little riled up. And I always love people talk about like riling up Lucic, right? Like don't wake the bear, right? But but here, like, just hear me out. I think the guy that needs to wake up every game is Draisaitl. When Draisaitl gets pissed off, like he's at another level usually, right? Like he, when he starts to play a little bit dirty, right? Like that's the best Draisaitl we ever see. Right?
Absolutely.
Like that's why playoff hockey and Leon Draisaitl go hand in hand. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, he's a playoff guy because he gets pissed off. He gets a little bit chippy. He's actually, I've got to think of somebody else to compare him to, but he's a bit of an asshole
He is. Did you see the
Right?
game-winning goal against the Rangers?
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah,
Goes past Truman, throws a stick at him. Man, it's
exactly.
awesome.
It is awesome, and he
Love
is an
that.
asshole, and
Yeah.
he's ours. Like he's a Oilers player, and he's awesome, and you gotta love him. He needs to wake up sometimes, right? Not this is not a condemnation of Leon Draisaitl. Don't get me wrong, because but games like last night I think are great. I don't know that we necessarily need a player to go out there and protect our guys, but we need maybe that's the answer to our quick starts or starting faster. Maybe these guys need to do the football thing in the locker room and start banging their heads against the locker room doors or something to wake them up
Yeah.
and get them fired up out of the gate. I think that's not a bad thing come playoff time. Like I think you just automatically fired up the team. Fans are going. I don't know. Maybe they need some meaner music at the start of the game at Rogers. Kelly brings up Tyler Benson's going to come into the next game,
Yeah, I was
and
thinking the same thing.
he's been. I love the way he's changed his game to be a bit of a
Even Hamlin last night, like he's not afraid to throw a hit. Smallest guy in the league, maybe.
Oh yeah. I mean, but this team needs that, and I actually think
Yeah.
DeBrusque brought it up a few games back. The Oilers were getting into it with another team. I don't think this team is small at all. I think
No,
the guys.
no.
I think I don't know that we need that player. What we need though, Kelly's got it. Team needs more players who will drag the rest of the team into the battle. And that,
With
but
an
the
energy
battle
on?
has to start from minute one, right? The battle has to start from the time they get out on the ice. Like we do well. The Oilers come in pissed off at Kachuk. We come in, we win that game,
Yeah.
right?
After
Kachuk
he-
does he's doing this shit, right?
Yeah.
Oilers come back
Yeah.
and they play, right?
You
Like
know,
they gotta have
I'm not
somebody.
saying we need Reeves. I'm not saying we need
Yeah.
you know,
But fair enough.
But
You did say we need
although like
Reeves.
everyone in the league now everyone in the league can play now though. Like there aren't guys that are sitting on the bench. We have like Devin Shore getting as many minutes as George LaRock did.
Yeah.
I don't
George
know.
LaRock had a hat trick though.
Exactly. Exactly. So I don't think we need like the deterrent, but like, do we have an energy line?
No,
I don't
I mean, I don't know. That was the one key last night, though, is third and fourth line last night were involved, right?
Yeah.
Like they were playing. I mean, you bring up a good thing. Who is the energy line? I love. You brought up Ryan McLeod not finishing checks. I love Ryan McLeod. Like he's
Me
one
too.
of my favorite players. I just think his value to the team, in my mind, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like he's even underutilized right now. Like, and it's a depth problem, right? And maybe he's not underutilized. Maybe it's just that he needs to be on the third line because he's the only guy you can trust there. But as we saw last year, you can play him up and down the lineup. I don't think you can play him, top line minutes, for more than a game or more than half a game. But if you need him there, he's not going to bring the line down.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't really care too much though, right? Like he is a great third line center right now. He's flourishing in that role.
Yeah, he's doing well. I
So,
mean,
like,
he could use a couple more
that's
minutes.
a good thing. That's a good thing to have.
Yeah. He could use
You
some more
don't need him
minutes,
to
I
replace
think.
Draisaitl or McDavid.
Yeah. Yeah, they did put him up for a brief bit.
Yeah.
I would love to see. I'd love to see him and Nuge switch it up for a game or two. Have
Why?
McLeod play up because
Per game.
we
A
always
point per
we
game.
always expected Nuge to run that
Point
third
per
line,
game.
right?
Like he's also flourishing right now where he's at. So why would you change that? Like He's getting the most points he's ever had in his career right now.
I know.
Don't fix that.
Yeah.
Away from that.
I don't know. I'm still. I would love to see. I'm not. I would love to see McLeod up the lineup 1 or 2 games, see what he does, what he accomplishes, and go from there. It's not. Yeah, and the only guy that could help that happen is Nuge, because he's the only guy that can go down the line.
Yeah.
And possibly run a third line. And we talked about this for years as Oilers fans, or not years, but the last couple of years, is that we finally got 3 centers, right? We're going to have wasn't it the dream that as the Edmonton Oilers, that we were going to have, the best top 3 lines in the league, with McDavid, Draisaitl and Nuge all leading the line, and now we've got McDavid and Draisaitl on the top line and Nuge on the second line. I mean, that's
it's injuries, right?
Yeah.
Like that's why you have to. And there's no coach in the world that would want to play Nuge and Draisaitl together all the time. It doesn't make sense. You'd rather have 1 or 2 of those, one or the other, on the ice more often. If they're playing 25 minutes a night, you don't want them playing together. You want 50 minutes a night of one of those guys on the ice.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with rookies like McLeod or whoever just being given top line because what has McLeod done to earn a spot?
But I think he has, though. Like, I think McLeod has done a lot to earn a spot. He's certainly done more than Puljujarvi has, right?
Okay, but that's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
we're talking about moving, replacing Nuge with McLeod. I think that's totally wrong. I don't think he deserves it. Yeah. Does he deserve to replace somebody that's also not scoring? Sure. But also he's a really good third line center.
He is. Although we're talking about getting an energy line, right?
Well, I think he'd be great on one if he had 2 wingers.
Yeah.
I do. Like him and Fogle, and I don't know. You know what? I think Puljujarvi would be a great third line right winger. I do.
Fogle destroys me because when he's on,
he's almost great.
Yeah, and when he's off, it just drives me absolutely mad. Klim Kostin, that's a loss that he won't play.
Yeah,
tomorrow night. He's been good. He's been the kind of guy that you want on an energy line. He's not going to put up 100 points or anything like that, but he can score once in a while and
and Yanmark too.
Yeah, and if you our guy Ryan Lotsberg put up a good article about the bottom 6 in scoring, and I feel like, look, if you got a chance, make sure you check out heavyhockey.com. Lotsberg's been the guy writes articles. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's probably got a ghostwriter or something, because he's been putting them out almost every day. Really great. And I find it hilarious because he'll write an article, not saying, the Oilers need to go out and do this or do that, but he put out an article about, he called it the zombie problem, and it's the bottom 6 for the Oilers. And not just the bottom 6, but really secondary scoring. And then it was more the secondary scoring piece that I thought was kind of interesting. And then, of course, we had a couple Bush bombs that very game, and secondary scoring was a thing again in Oilers land. Yeah, and Barry. Of course, it's coming from the defense, but wherever it comes from, hey, that's great. We'll take it. So check that out. But Klim Kostin, he's talking about that, and some of these other guys. Just, Fogle is a guy, right? Like, he's got to get more on the board, right? And do some of these things. Anyway, I mean, I like this conversation about an energy line. I like this conversation about, as Kelly said, have somebody who's pulling the team into battle. As we've talked about this more, I can't help but think, it's like any problem that you're trying to solve. I kind of am starting after it's been an hour on on this show with you today, Neil, and I'm going to say, this to me is maybe one of the biggest problems the Oilers have in the fast start, which is, they don't come angry enough every game.
Yeah. I was thinking too, like the guys that come up, from Bakersfield, they should be injecting that energy, and I don't know. I think Hamlin did really well last night. I hope Benson, to me, I would have played Benson if he was, maybe he wasn't fully ready to go. I don't know. But I would have played Benson and Hamlin and, and have that whole Southside Athletic Club
Oh,
thing
geez,
going on.
yeah.
Like, and why not? It's at a home game. Like, why not? So you play Shore instead of Benson? Really?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Benson's going to come in. I think he's going to be motivated to, show well. He sure had a great preseason, right? Like, of all the times for him to get injured, I was expecting something more out of him than we've had. It'd be great to see him back in the lineup, see what he has to bring. Of course, there's the Edmonton connection, which makes him a bit of a fan. And plus, Benson's one of those players who you just always wanted to do well on the Oilers, right? Like he had a great junior career. He was doing well in the A, right? Like, and he just couldn't get it going when, and sometimes a guy like that, he just doesn't fit in well enough in the top six. He needs to change his game a little bit, right? Like Cogliano, right? Like,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And he has. Like, I think Benson has changed his game to a point where he can be a utility player in the NHL. He's got to stay out of the box. I remember he got 3 penalties one game. I put a little video together of them because all 3 of them were shit calls. I feel like, he was getting the Holloway treatment because Holloway's had some pretty poor ticky-tack calls against him this year. And Benson just, the look on his face on all 3 penalties that game, and I can't remember who we were playing, but it was just, he couldn't believe it. And I think he sat out the very next game. And it's just tough luck. But I'd love to see the guy do well, and maybe he, brings something the Oilers are missing. Kelly says they're missing Cassian and Archibald. I mean, it's not necessarily Cassian and Archibald, but we're missing somebody to lay out the big hit. We've been dying for Niemelainen to, crush somebody, right? Somebody to get this all. Look, past hour, it all comes back to one thing, right? Like Oilers have the offense to do it. In fact, I think we're a little bit spoiled. Like, if Connor McDavid doesn't put up 4 points, we think he's had a bad game, right? Like I've had games where I've watched him play and he's only had 2 points, and I thought, oh shit, like, what's wrong with you, Connor? And then I realized, man, the guy just scored 2 points. He just got 2 points in a game, and what am I asking for?
You look at the box score and like, oh, right.
I mean, the thing is they need somebody to get, maybe like pay a fourth liner on the other team to slash Draisaitl in the back of the legs at, in warm up or something. Somebody's got to get going, and this team has got to get out of. It's not. I said it before that it could be an odds thing, right? Maybe they're just running a bad streak, but I don't think so. Something's wrong with this team.
I
They
think
can't get out of the gates fast enough, and that's one of it. They need the energy. They need to be in the battle right off the start.
those guys that we talked about, like Cassian or Archibald or whatever. I don't think we had Cassian. We need Cassian like 2016 or 2017, whatever that was, Cassian.
Yeah. Orange
Yeah.
Crush.
Like not
Yeah.
not post contract Cassian.
Yeah. Yeah, he was
Um,
a different player for sure.
back to the guy that I was talking about, like not okay, I take back Reeves, although the
No,
guy
I mean Reeves
he can
is
still play
fine.
hockey,
I
right?
get where you're going with that.
You
Yeah.
know, like but I didn't like on the Edler hit where it has to be Nurse. Like it has to be your top defenseman, or it's gonna be Kane, your top left winger. Like that's not a good trade-off for Edler to go to the penalty box.
Yeah.
If we had a bottom six guy that brought that guy can go to the penalty box, and Nurse can kill the penalty, or Kane can be on a power play or whatever, like it we need something more out of our bottom six. And it doesn't matter as much in the regular season as it does in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the hope is and was anyway, and we haven't had the start to back this up, but the hope was that the Oilers come out flying regular season, get to a point where they're, top in the division easily and handily, and then can make, whatever trade at the deadline they need, and can really, without question, say this is the year we're going to, use our first round pick, right? Like this is the year we're going all in, all the chips are in. I don't care what Holland says; he's not been all in yet.
No,
And
no, but nor should he have been either, right? Like,
yeah, no, I mean, clearly he's made the right choice, right?
yeah,
But
you asked me originally, do you add depth winger? Like, what about D?
yeah, well,
You
no,
know,
that's what Saravalli is saying, right?
you're
Is
gonna blow a first round draft pick. Do it on a defenseman, not a depth,
yeah.
depth forward.
Yeah, no, this team needs a D man in the worst possible way,
I
right?
think we were expecting more out of Broberg.
Yeah, but that was wishful thinking, right? I mean, we're
Yeah,
expecting more out of him, but still, we're not expecting like line one, top line
no,
D man, right?
I think we were expecting
And
too much out of Boosh too.
Nurse has not been top line guy, right, this year. Like he's been
He's our
good, but he
top
hasn't
line
been
guy.
great. CC hasn't been, 100%. I mean, you need a guy that I don't know. You like that. Obviously, you're not going to have a Makar, but like Ekblad last night made some unbelievable plays. Right tonight, I was watching him in the Calgary game. He made a pass from just to the right hash marks, all the way across the ice to the other blue line, tape to tape, and a bullet, and beautiful sauce, the whole deal. Carlson-esque of the time, like when he was in Ottawa.
Yeah,
You've got Adam Fox, you've got McAvoy, right? You look at any of these teams that are doing really hot, like Boston, right? I just
yeah.
mentioned McAvoy. Like any of these teams that are doing great, they've got a defenseman that you talk about, right? Like you say that's the guy that Connor McDavid's going up against when you play him, right?
Yeah,
Those are the guys, and
I do
frankly,
think that
right
Nurse
now,
could be that guy.
Nurse could be he's athletic enough. There's
Oh man, the guy.
100%.
I forget who was saying it. Yeah, I was listening to somebody talking about like Nurse might be the second best skating defenseman in the league behind Makar, and that's probably not far off. Like
Yeah, but it doesn't mean
he's an,
anything if he
I
doesn't do
agree.
anything with it, right? Like
The difference is,
he's made like absolutely terrible choices with the puck this year.
totally agree.
I mean, maybe the problem is he's thinking too much. I don't know,
I think
because the
he has to
longer
do
he
too
holds
much.
onto the puck, the greater the odds are that he's going to make a mistake with it.
Well, he
And
did great in overtime last night.
yeah, but then
And we don't
at
have
the same
another
time, I
defenseman
mean,
who could have done that.
we started the show off with I love Nurse, but man, I hate it when he takes the knee. That first goal was terrible,
Agreed.
right? Like this is, you know,
Agreed.
he is the top D man on a team that has one of the worst defensive records in the league,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, I'm not here to bash Nurse. I'm just saying,
Totally are.
I totally am, 100%. I'm actually, like, I don't sound it, but I'm a Nurse fan, and I want to be a Nurse fan, right? Like and I'm not talking for for the love of God, folks. Like, if you don't talk to me about salaries because I
Oh
could
man,
give a shit about what he's getting paid.
that's the
Right?
stupidest
Yeah,
argument.
yeah.
Like
It is. It's
my
awful.
comeback to that is usually name me 32 other defensemen in the league that are better than him.
Yeah, and it doesn't even
He's a top
doesn't even matter.
defenseman.
We had
He
2 or
is.
3 years of Nurse at whatever rate and was a steal.
Exactly.
It was a
Exactly.
steal.
He had
Right?
like two
Yeah.
show me contracts and he showed you.
Yeah, yeah, it was a steal. So he got
Yeah.
his money. I don't
Yeah.
care. But anyway, right now, you know, he's not playing the way that, you know, the way that we would expect or hope. He's had years where he's been, you know, only a couple of years ago, he was leading the league in even strength points, right?
Yeah.
Didn't even get like a nod come Norris time, right? Didn't
I
even
know.
like nobody even mentioned his name, but he was defensively he had a good year that year. Offensively, he was outstanding. You know, he gave you everything. He's not having that year right now. It's possible, you know, I mean, we've talked a little bit about Cody Ceci, but I'm not down on Cody Ceci. I don't think he's having a great year either, but maybe
he
he
isn't.
needs a better D-man
Yeah. Like
besides
I
as well.
kind of I feel sorry for Nurse sometimes.
Yeah, actually, I said that, and Kelly's said exactly the same thing. He needs a partner that can complement him more than Ceci does.
Like you look at Clefbaum and Larson when they were together. Like I think that Nurse could easily be Clefbaum. Like I think he's there now.
Yeah,
But he doesn't
yeah, and if
have
he had a
Larson to
guy
play
that
with.
could really back him up, then
He doesn't
yeah,
have Larson to play with.
yeah, yeah, that absolutely. I mean, that's a very fair statement, I think. All right, we've been over an hour. I think it's been fun. It's been good having you on the show.
Thanks very much.
First timer, I think you did all right. I didn't get any comments on any of the
I didn't
channels
read
here
any.
that we should throw you off, or who the fuck is this guy? That didn't happen. That didn't happen. So you did all right. And frankly, you know what? Yeah, I have somebody new. I'm always a little bit nervous, so all good.
I was a little nervous too.
All good, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're probably thinking, well, I don't really want to show the guy up, but,
I
but
sent
I
you
can't,
like 15 messages today.
I can't help. Kelly guys, join Kelly on YouTube. He's been chatting by himself tonight. And he's and thank you,
'Cause I'm on
Kelly.
the show.
It's been very interactive tonight. But no, you know what? It was a good show. We'll release it in podcast form tonight or early tomorrow. Neil, I want to thank you for joining. I know I see in the comments, Kelly would probably have somebody to chat with, right? Just as you just said, if you weren't on the show, which is great. Thank you to those of you that continue to tune in on all the different channels, whether it's Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook. Appreciate you. Check out heavyhockey.com for articles, game day. Our guy Ryan Lotsberg always does a thing after every game, call-outs, standouts, and shout-outs. That's great. We've finally been picked up by Google News, which is great as well. Hopefully see some more stuff there. Hey, it's been an interesting season. We're riding a 2-game back-to-back, come from behind thriller last game. Like we didn't even We didn't even talk about the 27 seconds that changed the outlook of this team, right?
I watched the game like 3 times.
Yeah, I mean that's just plain unreal. Oh, and
I
by
want
the
to say
way,
one thing about that, Michael. I
yeah,
don't know
go
if
ahead.
you noticed on the game tying goal,
Yeah,
um, Connor called an audible. Barry was on the left side,
yeah,
and he made Bouchard switch with Barry
right on.
right before the drop of the puck,
Yeah.
and like Barry kind of frowned a little bit,
Oh,
and it ends up Bouch putting it in the back of the net.
so is that in on the game on the video?
I like not in the highlights,
No. Okay.
so I recorded the game
Yeah.
and watched it over again. It might be if you watch, it might be in if you just go and watch that one goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
It might be in there, but the other one, Connor's breakaway goal,
Yeah.
he almost knocked the net off with that backhand.
Oh yeah. Well, it's Connor doing Connor things, right? I mean, absolutely.
I thought it was the goalie at first, but it was Connor's backhand.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. He's unreal. I mean, I I think every game I watch him play, and I've said this before. I'm still amazed. He did a move at our blue line last game that cut back, where my ankle broke just watching it.
Yeah.
And like just doesn't look possible. All right. Anyway, I do appreciate you coming on, Neil. Definitely, and thanks, Kelly, for listening in. Some stranger says Seattle 7, LA 6. That's actually changed. It's Seattle 8, LA 6 at the end of the second period. So make sure you tune into that football game if you've got streaming services. A couple of touchdowns being scored there. As is the case in every one of my shows, Neil, I give everybody the last word. You know the rules. I put my microphone on mute, and I put the end screen on as soon as you say goodnight. I want to say thank you again for joining me. It's been a good conversation. You and I have been talking about getting this done for quite a while now, and I'm glad we did. I'll get you back on. Happy to talk some hockey with you. It's always good to have somebody who knows hockey almost as well as I do. There's there'd be
Low bar.
yeah, low bar. Thank you. Yeah, I knew there was some good comment. Good comment. Appreciate that. All right. So, anyway, I'll leave you with that, and to everybody else, make sure you check out heavyhockey.com. Neil, you're up.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks for having me on. This has been great. I've been looking forward to it. I was nervous today. As I said at the start, I'm a positive Oilers fan. I do think this season's going to change for us. We're going to get some players back. I think our goalies are going to figure it out. I think our team defense is hopefully going to get better. I will say that never blame it on one defenseman. Never blame it on a goalie. There's usually 10 things that have happened before it got there. Stay positive. Thanks for having me on, Michael. Good night.